Okay, this is my third recording. Recordings that are not going to make me a lot of friends, but I'm going to speak about pride and how it's applied to the LGBT community. I want to start out by saying that there were some comments saying that I don't understand the context and how it's being applied. I do. I fully do. I lived from the beginning to where we are now. I know exactly why it came about and its appeal. I completely understand that and why it persists. So let me just put that out of the way. I'm also going to just talk about the nature of what pride is, and I will tell you it came from a place where there was an assumption that a lot of gay and lesbians were dealing with shame, right? We were ashamed about who we were, and how we had to deal with this shame that came from other people and other groups, religious types or whatever. So I understand that. I will tell you my personal experience. So I came from a pretty conservative, socially conservative background, Irish Catholic, and it was not a real cool thing to be gay. And at a time when there weren't a lot of people that were gay. So I was dealing with that sort of headwind when I was, in my teens and 20s, whatever. But I'll tell you, shame wouldn't be the right way to explain what I was feeling then. It was more like I felt very alone, super alone. Like nobody else was understanding what I was going through, nor I was the only one in the world that was dealing with what I was dealing with. And I dare not talk about it because it was so misunderstood. Nobody would really understand me. I don't know that I would say I was ashamed. But I was alone. I was super isolated. And therein is a lot of the appeal to joining a group that says, "Oh, you're great. Come on, we're just like you." So, but let's just start with the basis of shame, which is sort of where the community would say it started. And so, as an antidote to shame, they said, "No, we're not ashamed. We're proud." So what you're doing is going from one extreme to the other, right? And extremes are never good. Well, they're rarely good. So being shame and then going to pride, I will tell you the two things about those two extremes. They're both largely based in lies that we tell ourselves, right? The reasons why you should be ashamed, you're just the worst thing in the world, or pride, you're just everything, you're all that in a bag of chips, right? There's lies in both sides of the extremes, right? There's some days, I feel like I'm Einstein, and other days I feel like Homer Simpson, right? Neither of those are true. And there are the lies on both sides. Somewhere in between those two extremes is the truth. And that's the job you have, is to find out the truth of who you are as best you can, because you will still always be telling yourself lies. I tell myself lies all day long. I look in the mirror and I think I'm great, or I look in one of these videos and I say, "Wow, you look old." There's somewhere in there's the truth. And it is our job to find the truth. And the best way to find the truth is really by looking at your behavior, look at your relationships, look at your resentments. These things are good exercises on finding out who you really are, rather than who you think you are, who you'd like to think you are, and how you think others think you are. Those are largely incorrect too. The best way is to really look at your past behavior. And so I will also tell you that in that exploration, the real goal isn't pride and isn't shame. The goal is to come away with self-respect. So self-respect is based in truths, right? As best you can. Having self-respect, that is a respect that is not contingent upon the validation of other people, but in your heart you're a decent guy. You're not, the best. You're not a saint, right? But you're also not the worst. Somewhere along there is the truth, and you get comfortable with yourself if you start living a life of self-reflection, right? And knowing yourself. That's Socrates. Know to thy known self be true, or what is it, know thyself, or whatever. Those things are really where it comes to, and it's very, very difficult to do that, but it is not impossible, and it is your job to do that. And again, you can see it by how you treat other people. You can see it how you have relationships. You can see about the kind of relationships you have. Do you have a lot of people that just say you're wonderful all the time, or do you have relationships that tell you that you're a piece of crap? Those are not good relationships. I mean, unless there's some truth to them. But the point is, your goal is to find the truth of who you are without it being connected to another person or a group. So the problem with the gay community and lesbian, whatever, the gay community is that you are getting your self-worth from the group. You're taking on their qualities, the things you think are so wonderful about this group. You're taking them on, along with some of the bad things, right? So you're actually inheriting enemies that you never had before. The group hates these people, so now I gotta hate these people. So these things, you're actually giving up yourself a lot so that you can fit into the group and say, look, I'm fantastic because my group is fantastic and I'm part of the group and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be part of the group and be just like them. And all that's terrible because you're losing yourself in the process. I love Emerson, so I'm going to just say Emerson said that imitation is suicide. I think I said this in the last one, meaning that you should never give up yourself for somebody else and aspire towards them. You need to be working on you. You get the input of other people, you get all that, not validation, but you sort of take away the best of what you see in other people and you make it part of who you are. And that's how you grow as a person. And I come back to the whole self-reliance, right? The individualism via self-reliance. And that's sort of the answer. The answer does come from within. A lot of people are if they hear this, they won't understand what I'm saying because roadblocks go up. I'm saying nothing that's too complicated to understand. It's just you don't want to hear what I'm saying. But maybe there are some people that do, and I hope there are. It is also really good to connect with others who feel the same way. And I don't mean that as like another group and we're going to do it. No, but just to know that, you're not alone is always a wonderful, wonderful thing. And you're not alone. So if you want to leave a comment, that'd be great. If you want to even email me, DennisGSullivan@gmail.com. Thanks, and I hope you have a really good day.